Trainer, co-founder of SGA University, spoken and traveled more than 600 times for 350 colleges and universities, including 250 virtual presentations. The 2019 APCA Speaker of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Mr. Dave Kelly. Bring him up.
Thank you. Thank you. No. Thank you all. I appreciate being here. Wow, the last time I was in Hershey, I was on this stage to do the opening keynote after about 30 schools were told they couldn't come. Thank you so much for being here. That is so great. Give yourselves a round of applause that we have made it this far. You know, we've gone through a lot the last 2 years, but you know, we're still in business. We're just doing things differently. And we're learning how to do that and do it better. In this program, we talk about membership retention. One of the things to do when you're recruiting for members, be honest and upfront about what your organization is. We focus on the sizzle, the image. We got to think about the substance. Let me show you an example. Anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture? No diversity, yes, but look closer. No t-shirts, that's right. They're selling t-shirts. These are very pretty people, but shouldn't somebody be wearing a t-shirt? Now this guy, look at him. He is one of the best doctors in New York. And doesn't he look the part? He's got the lab coat, the scrubs, the chart. His name is on it. That's a good looking doctor. Just one problem, what's his specialty? Yeah, hair transplantation, and he's bald. I'm not going to a bald hair transplant doctor. I've got more hair than he does. So we've got to focus on the substance and tell people what we really are.
Two controversial statements. Disagreement is okay. What? Yeah, you can have disagreement. That's why we have the rules, Robert's rules, so we can sort out disagreements and debate. And critical thinking is allowed and encouraged. You got to engage in civil discourse. You got to be able to discuss things in a way where you can get in a heated argument, but when you leave the room, you're still friends. So here's 5 things that I'm going to share about civil discourse for you. It requires respect of the other participants in the discussion. You have to give respect, because if you don't, how can you expect to get respect? So think about that. Now, that doesn't mean you agree with people, but you don't resort to name calling or ad hominem attacks. Stay focused, stay on the issue, and also don't burn bridges, because you may disagree on this thing today. You might find out later on you agree on 9 other things that are important to you too. Don't diminish someone's moral worth or judgment because of their opinion on something. You don't know, like we just, Joni and I just had a slight disagreement over the civil rights movement, for example. And so she might, so if she suddenly goes, well, you just hate the civil rights movement. No, I just had a difference of opinion. So again, don't get into that type of thing. And realize that we don't know about people's lived-in experiences. So sometimes those will come into play. Here is controversial statement number 3 that I'm going to make in this program. Disagreement does not equal hate. We need to get people to understand that. And there's a lot of times where, because someone disagrees on one point on an issue, that suddenly now you hate people, or you're transphobic or homophobic or any of the other phobics. No, I just disagree on this one point. I agree with you on everything else. And I think we do a disservice at times to people when we don't hear them out. And again, we can disagree on things, because what's ultimately going to happen? Most things, if it's something like some of these issues, a vote's going to get taken at some point. And so do you want me on your side for everything else and we just disagree on this one thing? Or do you want me just to say, you know what, I'm out later on? So let's jump right into this topic about recruitment tables, successful tables, or maybe initially not so successful tables. You ever seen this at a recruitment fair? Yeah, this was an actual place that I was recruiting at. You can see the timestamp is back in 2007. I took this with an actual camera, the kind you had to go get the film developed. So this is an older picture, but it's very illustrative. And I always have people say, oh yeah, I've seen that. where a group doesn't even show up to do the recruitment fair. They don't show up to recruit. Their names are on the tables. So this first one's right here. MS, I know, stood for Macon State because that was the name of the school at the time. I don't know what those other groups are, but this is showing people, oh, this must not even be an active group, or they're fly by night or whatever, because they didn't even show up for the recruitment fair. This is your sales opportunity for your entire year. You've got to show up to recruit. Now, here is the exact same fair, and here is a really good-looking table. You can see it's the Natural Science Network. They've got Triboard there. It's got some information about their group. They've got a scrapbook. They've got, right there in the middle, looks like the heart of a freshman. Maybe that off to the right there, that is their advisor's skull. But they got a lot of things on here, some takeaway information. It's a really good-looking table. There's just one problem. There's something missing. If you said people, you're correct. There's no people there. You've got to have people there to recruit. And I'm going to talk about how many and who should do what here in just a couple of moments. But people is key. What about this? You ever seen this at a table where someone really doesn't look like they want to be there? Do you want to go talk to that person? Do you think that they have enthusiasm for their organization? I don't. Or what about this dynamic when you have two people behind the table, but they're all engaged in their own conversation? So does he think I'm cute? Does he want to go out with me? We'll be with you in just a moment. Oh yeah, he thinks you're real cute. You should poke him. You should poke him on Facebook. Yeah. And then Saturday night, I'll wear my green dress and where did they go? Two people so engaged in their own conversation that somebody came to their table, was interested, but they didn't show any interest in them. You ever have that happen to you in a department store? If you want to buy the product, you're going to put up with it. Nobody's going to put up with that at a table. So be engaged, be in the moment. Most recruitment fairs that I've experienced are 2-3 hours long at the most. Keep your attention and your focus for that time on the people who are coming by your table to your table. Let me talk about some specific things that can help you be more successful in your recruitment efforts. Several members should be working at the table. I suggest at least 3. You have 2 people at the table and then somebody out front in the flow of traffic. Again, I understand with social distancing, that may not be as effective for you on your campus, but if you're able to do that, that's the role I would always play. I called myself the bird dog. I would be out in the middle of the flow of traffic, and I would talk to people as they came along and got them over to our table. Well, how did I do that? I had a question. And you need to have a defining statement or question that you can ask people that doesn't necessarily involve the name of your organization.
It was very overwhelming for a first-timer. And in between those people, those big offices, there was a guy on that side of the room telling them what he would do if they would vote for him to be their lieutenant governor. But nobody was running from our side of the room. And the guy running the meeting was just begging for somebody to run. And after a while, my advisor nudged me and said, "Why don't you do it?" And I said, "Me? I don't even know what that thing is. How can I be on the district board? I've never been an officer in our club." But I thought about it and I thought, I'll raise my hand, I'll say I'll do it. They'll see I'm not any good and don't know anything. And somebody better will get elected. So I raised my hand and I said, I'll do it. And I learned a lesson about volunteering that night. You tend to get what you volunteer for. Well, I went home and I just read all the books and manuals they gave me because I was in school BC, before computers. And I just did what the books and manuals said to do. And at the end of that year, out of 14 lieutenant governors in our district, 2 were named as outstanding, and I was one of them. And thank you. Appreciate that. And then at that time, you could only nominate 1 for the international award from each district, and I got to be our nominee. And that summer in Washington, D.C., in front of 3,000 people at the Key Club International Convention, out of over 700 lieutenant governors in the whole organization, only 14 were named as outstanding, and I was one of them. Thank you. But my journey wasn't complete. It had started with I'll do it, and it continued into college, into Circle K. And I've joined at the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh. Yes. And for the rest of you, that is a real place, by the way. And I was lieutenant governor, then governor, international vice president, and international president. And I loved it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I got to travel all over, saw places I loved. I moved to Atlanta. I joined a Kiwanis Club in Atlanta. I became an assistant administrator for CKI. And on October 27th, 1990, I was at a training conference in Griffin, Georgia. 500 Kiwanians in a room. And as we were there, they were giving out awards, and there was a session. And after the session was over, I didn't have anywhere to go, so I was hanging out with the college students, talking to them. And there was this woman who had been way back in the room that we saw earlier jump up and down when her club won an award. And she came up and started talking to our Circle K governor. And after a few minutes, he turned to me and he said, Dave, I'd like you to meet Dia. Dia, meet Dave. And in that moment, I met my wife. Thank you. That is the biggest wow response I've ever had to that. I'm happy I didn't go to prom. It all started with I'll do it.
Here's what I love about leadership. It allows us to grow, to find out who we are, and that we can pursue our passions and do what we love the most. And right now, in this moment, being on the stage with you, that's my passion. And I love it, and I love all of you for being here. And I believe we can change the world by serving one life at a time. Thank you, APCA. Come see me in booth 69. Thank you.
Dave Kelly, ladies and gentlemen.